Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blue, I'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. I'm going to try to be as respectful as I can to Ronald Rivera. It's no longer Ron. We're past nicknames. We're now on a full-time, full-name basis. So Ronald Rivera has now hit the point where he has gone borderline delusional. And I think he's at a point now in his tenure here in Washington that, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I said Ron is at a crossroads in his tenure here in Washington, because you're getting to that point now where a lot of the things that you said in the past are going to come back to bite you in the ass if you don't start winning some football games here shortly. And what's really making it worse and expediting this process is the fact that the teams around him in the division are faring so well. If it were just Dallas and Philadelphia playing well, and the Giants were back here struggling with Washington as most people expected, I think it would still be a lot of scrutiny on Ron, but it would be a little bit less, because you can't point to another team in the division that's supposed to be worse off than you, not doing the things that you've been doing, a little bit further back in the process. They just started their process. You're 3 years in. They're going into their first year with a new GM and a new head coach. They're trying to turn over the roster. They're trying to get their cap situation back to square one so that they can actually spend money and improve the roster in the offseason. They're still trying to figure out if Daniel Jones is the right man for the job, same with Saquon Barkley. They're trying to figure out a lot of things in New York, but they're winning football games. And so you start to look at Ron, and you look at the Dolphins, and you look at all these other teams with first-year head coaches and the success that they're having. And not everybody's got, Justin Herbert at quarterback. Not everybody has Joe Burrow at quarterback. And so I talked about that crossroads Ron was beginning to approach, and that he needed to start winning some games. And I think that crossroads was against Dallas. I think it's when I said Ron is at a crossroads in his career here in Washington, and he needs to start winning some football games. Well, he hasn't won a game, he didn't win a game 2 weeks prior to that, and he hasn't won a game since I made that comment. So, of course, he's even in a worse spot than he was when I made those comments, because that was going into the Dallas game week 4. We're now going into the Thursday night game week 6 versus the Chicago Bears on the road. And you just had a game slip through your fingers against the Tennessee Titans, a team that I really felt like was there for the taking. Told you that they would be before the game started. And there was one thing that really resonated with me when I had my guy MJ on the program. And I repeated this to you guys on Friday, right as I was about to end the show. After I'd given you the keys to the game and I told you what I thought would happen, I said, this is the one thing that scares me. And I said, it's this. MJ said very poignantly, Mike Vrabel has schemed his way to a few victories here and there throughout his career. There's been times where we've been shorthanded. There have been times where we were playing a better team, and somehow we were able to win because Mike Vrabel out-schemed the other coaching staff, and we got it done. And I said, look, they don't have any pass rushers. They don't have any receivers. They don't have anything that should scare us. We should win this game. It's not going to be easy because we don't make anything easy on ourselves. But this is a game that is there for the taking. And if you make all of the plays that are there to be made, and if you minimize the one thing that can hurt you, which is Derrick Henry, you're going to have a chance to win this football game. Don't turn it over. Take care of the football, all of those things. And, of course, we do everything that we needed to do to put ourselves in a position. Derrick Henry killed us in the first half, but we limited him in the second half. Didn't have a bunch of explosive plays. They did have one, and that really hurt us. But We didn't have any turnovers. Everything was where it needed to be. And then on the final play of the game, you have a turnover. It cripples you. You lose the game, all of that good stuff. But you listen to Ron the day after. Okay, Ron was pissed off last night, as he should have been. And, you lose a game like that, you're emotional. You get a few questions that, they rub you the wrong way after a big time loss. That one hurt. That one hurt the players in the locker room. I don't know if you got a chance to hear the players after the game. That one hurt the coaching staff, specifically Ron. And as fans, we were crushed. That was a soul crusher. It's hard to bounce back from a game like that. I said, either playing on Thursday is going to be a gift or a curse. If we win, it was a gift. Gave us an opportunity to quickly get over what felt like in the moment a season-ending blow to a season that was already going off the rails anyway. Or it could turn out to be an opportunity for us to get back on track. Get over a loss that, as I just mentioned, seemed like it was ending the season, and now you win, and now you're feeling a lot better about yourself, and maybe, just maybe, out of nowhere, here comes that 4-game win streak that I've been talking about. That may or may not come this season with the way things are going. May or may not come. Here's the start of it. Who knows? Or it could be a curse, and you lament the loss and all the opportunities that were there in front of you. You don't quite get over the Tennessee loss, and that one loss turns into a second loss, which makes it 5 in a row. After starting the season 1-0, you're now 1-5. And easily that could transpire. And so we've seen our first head coach get fired. And when I told my wife, I said, hey, did you see that Matt Rule got fired in Carolina? And she said, and it begins. I said, and it does. So now all of those coaches that are struggling, the clock's ticking. First guy's already been hacked. Okay? He's been knocked off the chopping block. The top, as I like to say, has been popped on the coaches that are on the hot seat. One of them has already been flipped off the hot seat. Who's next? I don't think it's going to be Ron. I don't think Ron's getting fired, but I'm going to tell you this much. If Ron continues to be delusional, Ron will be next. Ron will get fired sooner than I think he is ultimately going to get fired. Here's why I say that Ron is now delusional. So today at the press conference, and there were a lot of things that Ron said that, I won't say a lot. There were some things that Ronald said that I thought were legit. I.e., you can't keep taking guys out. I said this yesterday. A lot of people want more players to be benched. Take Andrew Norwell out and put in who? Wes Schweitzer is on IR right now. Who are you going to put in the game? And then, so people are just irrational. Well, put in Chris Paul. Chris Paul clearly is not ready. If he were, they would put him in similar to the way they put in Sadiq Charles. Now, again, they may just continue to ride with, because Ron keeps complaining and bitching and moaning about how they've had to shuffle the offensive line. Guess what? That's the NFL. Everyone's shuffling their offensive line. Injuries happen, okay? The Cowboys had their left tackle 2 weeks before the season started, destroy his knee or whatever it was he injured, and he was out for the season essentially, his kneecap, whatever it was. And they had to figure some shit out. They had to shuffle their offensive line. It's a part of the game. Nobody wants to hear you bitching and complaining about shit that everybody has to go through. Be one thing if it was like last year with COVID, where we were decimated by COVID, and that's something that not everyone's having to deal with in terms of having it run rampant through their roster and guys missing ball games. This isn't a simple thing as injuries. They happen in this league. Nobody wants to hear you crying about wanting your full roster. Everybody wants their full roster. The Chargers don't have their full complement of offensive linemen. Their left tackle is done for the season. We're over here crying about guys that are out for a week or two or 4 weeks. Teams have lost starting left tackles for the entire year. Figure it out. But guess what? That wasn't what Ronald said that made me feel like he was delusional. I told you, I actually agree with that. I said that yesterday. You can't keep taking guys out. Who else are you going to put in? You run out of guys at some point. They asked him about William Jackson III. Was he benched? William Jackson III told reporters after the game, oh, my back flared up. I told the coaching staff to take me out because my back flared up. Well, that's not the way that the staff is painting the picture. So they asked Ronald about it, and Ronald was like, oh, well, let's just say we took him out of the game. Well, did you take him out of the game because he was hurt, or did you take him out of the game because of his performance? We took him out of the game. Well, sounds like you benched him for performance, if you ask me. But, hey, whatever, William Jackson III has to tell himself to make him feel better, fine by me, okay? But that's not what Ronald said that made me feel like he was delusional. Ronald was asked about the 1-4 start versus the 4-1 starts for both Dallas and the Giants and the 5-0 start for Philadelphia. And he was asked about how come teams around the league, specifically in this division, i.e. the Giants in particular, how come a team that is just starting brand new with their quote-unquote rebuild is 4-1? Why are the Cowboys 4-1 with Cooper Rush at quarterback? And do you know what Ronald Rivera said? The quarterback. The reason the New York Giants are 4-1 is because of the quarterback. Oh my God, how did we miss that? How did we miss the Giants are 4-1 because they have Daniel Jones at quarterback? I would have never imagined that that's why the Giants were 4-1. Man, well then, damn, whatever happened to that last coach? What is his name, Joe Judge? Well, he had Daniel Jones, right? Why didn't he win games? Why wasn't the Giants able to be over 500 the last 4 or 5 years until this year? It was Daniel Jones all along. I had no clue. Man, the Cowboys are 4-1. And they called him out on his bullshit. They said, Ron, well, the Cowboys have Cooper Rush. I would have said the Giants have Daniel Jones. But no, they took it easy on old Ronald Rivera. They said, no, well, the Dallas Cowboys have an injury. Dak hasn't played since week 1. And coincidentally enough, that's the only game they've lost this season. Actually, they got a young guy. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Cooper Rush. He's won 5 consecutive starts to start his career and 4 this year for the Cowboys in relief. Oh, well, and so Ronald then starts backtracking. Well, they've got their whole thing set up for Dak. That doesn't matter. You just said the quarterback is the reason. They got Cooper Rush at 4-1. The Giants have Daniel Jones at 4-1. What is your excuse? We're waiting. It's the quarterback? Then he proceeds to say, this is a quarterback league, and if you don't have one, you don't have a chance. Duh, we already know that. So what are you saying? Are you saying the guy that you went out and got, the guy that you gave up draft picks for, the guy that you told when he showed up to the facility that, hey, we want you, the same guy that we heard that you actually wanted Jimmy Garoppolo first, but because he had shoulder surgery, you passed on Garoppolo and then decided to go out and get Carson Wentz. That same guy, he's not good enough? Is that what you're trying to tell us? Then he's like, oh, no. He's playing fine. And then he starts talking some gobbledygook about, Carson Wentz and how he's playing well early in the season. And he's had his moments this season where he's had some ups and downs. But last game against Tennessee, he was playing well and he played really well. And you saw when he was protected what he can do. So then why are you blaming the quarterback position? What the hell are you talking about, Ron? The Giants have Daniel Jones. What are you talking about? The Cowboys have Cooper Rush. What are you talking about? Had Ronald said, well, look at Dallas's defense. They're dominant right now. They're killing everybody. I would have said, yeah, they are. That's true. Look at the Giants defense. That's a really good unit. And when they need stops, they get them. Our guys are solid, but we're not making the plays. We're not forcing turnovers. We're not making the plays when they have to be made. If he would have said that, I would have had more respect for Ronald. But when you make a dumbass assertion like quarterback and it doesn't apply, now you're starting to sound delusional. Ronald sounds like he's losing his damn mind. All of this losing is going to his head. Because now he's starting to sound like the Ronald that we got when he first got here, when he was going through an ordeal. I'm not going to bring it up because that isn't fair. And I don't want to act as if this is the same thing. But he's talking like that Ronald was talking, and that Ronald had an excuse. This one doesn't. I want to read a couple of comments from a couple of you out there that messaged me, and I told you from time to time I DM people or they DM me, and we go back and forth. And so I want to read this one. This is a really good one that I got. From my guy, Andrew. Andrew DM'd me and wrote me a soliloquy, but I don't mind because especially when it's a good read, right? So this is what Andrew had to say in response to Ronald trying to use the quarterback position as the crutch as to why Washington is 1-4 right now. Okay. And this is the shit that I can't deal with. The inability to take accountability for what is going on. You're a part of the problem. The offensive coordinator is probably the biggest culprit. And you don't want to allow that to be the narrative. So you're dumping it on a player. That's what it sounds like to me. You're using someone as a scapegoat. I guess that's what it sounds like to Andrew as well, because this is what he wrote. Ron's excuse for his failures in Washington is quarterback? Shaking my head. No, Ron, it's coaching and roster building. You had a defense that was dreadful last year, and you decided to run it back again with the same coaches and players. Remember, he didn't get rid of Sam Mills III until August. Keep that in mind. After the Hall of Fame game, when he went to honor his father who was being put into the Hall of Fame posthumously, and then when he came back, he realized he didn't have a job, which seemed like a really cutthroat way of doing business. Anyway, you made the mistake of concentrating on a few good games late in the year instead of looking at the D's overall performance. Your offensive coordinator is proving to be inflexible and unimaginative. His play calling and scheme is predictable to the point it's allowing the opponents to have a massive advantage because their players are telling us post games that they knew what was coming. You gambled on washed up players to fill holes on the O-line. You failed to draft or sign any solid depth at DB. Your team looks uninspired and unprepared most games, and that's on you. This season is a cumulative effect of 3 years of quote unquote, let's just be patient and things will improve mentality instead of attacking weak points with a I need to change it now mentality. Belichick isn't satisfied after a Super Bowl win, but Ron feels good about the growth of this team without having a winning season. I don't think Carson is the answer at quarterback, but I damn sure ain't going to allow Ron to make him the scapegoat. I wholeheartedly agree with that comment from my guy Andrew, and that's what it kind of sounds like. Ron's trying to use Carson as the scapegoat. You know, the guy that he went out and acquired via trade, the guy that he ate up our cap space for, that forced him to release a guy on the offensive line that could have been helping us right now, and also forced us to release a couple of guys that would have been able to help us from a depth perspective on the defensive line and at linebacker / safety in Landon Collins and Matt Ioannidis. This was his doing. You did this. And now you're trying to tell us he's not good enough? That he's the problem? He's the reason we're 1-4? And then, he also threw in the offensive line struggles and the shuffling. You did that. You did that. You are the reason the offensive line looks the way that it does. You could have addressed the guard positions. You could have done something differently. You went out and got 2 30-year-old guards, essentially, that had struggled in their past 2 stops in Trey Turner and the last stop in particular for Andrew Norwell. You did that. So you can't bitch and complain when these guys come here and they suck like they did in Los Angeles with the Chargers, like they did when they were with the Steelers, or like, Norwell did when he was with the Jags. You can't be upset. They already showed you who they were. And you think you're going to turn the clock back because of John Matsko? You're getting what you deserve. You asked for this, you got what you asked for, and now you don't like it? So you're going to blame the quarterback? Your offensive coordinator called a bullshit-ass play 3 times down at the goal line with a chance to win, and you're going to blame that on the quarterback? I blame the fact that he made a poor decision to force it into a situation that wasn't tenable. So I got another comment from my guy, Derek B. And Derek B, he said to me, and he sent me a link to the video of the last play of the game. And he said, I don't know what fans are talking about. I didn't see any way for Wentz to run it in. They were sitting at the goal line. I haven't went back and watched all 3 downs, but I take his word for it. I didn't think there was, there could have been a way he could have run it in. I'm going to be able to give you a better assessment of that when I watch it myself. But I've got conflicting reports now because yesterday after the game, I at least 3 or 4 people tell me, oh, Wentz could have run it in at least on 2 separate occasions. Now my guy Derek B saying he couldn't have run it in. They were sitting at the goal line. At the end of the day, this wasn't supposed to be a Wentz quarterback draw or a Wentz escaping the pocket and scrambling for the touchdown. All right, this was supposed to be Scott Turner from the 2-yard line diagramming or drawing up a play or a concept to get the ball to a receiver that could score a touchdown and we could win the game. That's what was supposed to happen. So he sends me the link to the final play of the game where the pick is made by linebacker David Long. And he says, Lou, if Terry knows JD is the primary read on this play, I need him to not get hemmed up like this. Hell, at least get in the way for a pick play. He got jacked up. He jacked Terry up so bad it propelled him into the play. So you watch the play, and Terry gets pushed out of the way essentially by the linebacker, and then he makes the play, the interception. And Ron keeps slobbing all over David Long's knob. Oh, my God, what a play by linebacker. These guys get paid too. No. Your offensive coordinator is trash. Just say it. Now, again, I don't want you to throw Scott Turner under the bus. But I want you to say, hey, we got to be able to get the football in from the 2-yard line. And you can leave it as ambiguous as you would like. You got to say, hey, we got to be able to we had 3 cracks at it. Should have had 4, but we had 3 cracks from the 2-yard line to get the ball in the end zone. We got to get it in there. I don't want to hear about the other guy making a play. Stop giving other teams credit for our shortcomings, okay? I don't want to hear about the other team making a great play. I want to hear why we didn't get the shit done. He made a great play because we were incapable of drawing up a good one. So Derek B says, if Terry does his job here, it has a chance, it being that final play that got picked off. And so I went back and watched the play that he sent me, the little clip he sent me, and here was my response. I typed up a damn soliloquy myself, okay? So this is my response to Derek B. Could Terry have done more? Sure. But it's a poor concept, and more importantly, it's poor spacing that goes back to the concept. In the red zone, you are trying to create space in a condensed area. Thus, you don't want too much traffic in a specific area that you are trying to target because it attracts more attention. JD needs to either be running a route that is wider so that one man can't guard 2 players. It's similar in basketball. That's why they call it spacing in basketball. You don't want to have guys right next to each other where one defender can guard 2 people, all right, 2 players. So that's why you space the floor. You make guys have to run, and guys can't cover 2 players with 1 defender. Or JD should be running an outbreaking route away from the traffic and isolating that defender by himself, rendering that linebacker, David Long, who picked the pass off, useless on the play. Okay? Again, in the red zone, you want to throw the ball where there is the least amount of traffic and the least amount of risk to the ball being picked off, which is why you see a lot of back shoulder fades and pylon comebacks in the NFL. When a team has to have it, and they're throwing the ball into the end zone, you see a lot of back shoulder fades, or they run a comeback towards the pylon, the front pylon, and you throw it right there. They get their 2 feet in as they're falling out of bounds, and they try to come back to the pylon and catch it. Why? Because you're throwing the football in an area that isolates 1 defender. You can't double team that unless you take a safety or another defender and you physically put him out there like it's a gunner, and you're trying to put 2 guys on him. That's the only way you can defend a back shoulder fade or a pylon comeback with 2 guys. It's impossible. It's 1-on-1 out there. And that also means that the ball isn't in harm's way. Either my guy's going to get it or it's going to be incomplete. Unless you throw a horrible ball, right? So I finished up my thought by saying away from traffic. Those plays are called because it's away from traffic. It isolates a defender, which goes back to the concept of this play with Scott Turner in particular. It was a poor concept because you're throwing the ball into traffic, period. It's a poor play call. It's as simple as that. That was my response. Derek B then goes on to say, it does look way too congested, but it looks like Wentz threw it where it was designed to go. And I don't doubt that. They were probably running a play for J.D. McKissic to get the football, but it was a poorly designed play, which goes back to my initial point. It was a poorly designed play. It wasn't going to work. You've got to have a better play call than that. He says, no one else is looking to get the ball here. He says that goes right back to Scott. And my last reply was exactly. That was the point I was trying to make from the jump, was that it was just a poor concept. And so instead of blaming the quarterback, how about you blame your coaching staff? How about you blame your offensive coordinator, Scott Turner? And again, I'm not looking for you to do that publicly, Ronald. I'm not looking for you to do that publicly. I'm looking for you to have some accountability, however. You know, when the Patriots lose, there's no throwing anybody under the bus. There's no finger pointing. You know what Bill Belichick says? You know, the one time I heard Bill Belichick make an excuse, I was shocked, but he was like, bro, we don't have any money. We were broke. We couldn't sign any free agents. Like, that was the truth. Tom left and we didn't have shit. And the next year, he went crazy in the store. He got a little bit of bread. He got that stimulus check, and he went ape shit. He spent money on all kinds of items. And they went to the playoffs. They got their asses kicked, but they went to the playoffs. But after most games, whether they win or they lose, especially if they lose, you know what Bill Belichick says? We got to coach better. We got to play better. We got out-coached. We got outplayed, and we got to be better. That's his standard universal line after a loss. Whether they've lost 5 in a row, 1 game, 3 in a row, that's the line. You know why? Because when you lose in this league, rarely is it one guy's fault. Usually it's a collective effort. Didn't make the best play calls. Some guys on the field didn't execute. This guy didn't do that. You know, this wasn't a good play call against that particular defense. You knew what you were getting. This is the play call you called, and it didn't work. There's a lot of that goes on. Everybody can share a little bit of the blame. Everybody can shoulder some of that blame. But Ron has gone out of his way to make sure that he nor his coaching staff get any of the blame. They're Teflon. So now it's the quarterback. That's why the Giants, they got Daniel Jones. Are you kidding me? They got Daniel Jones. That's why they're 4-1. Man, the Cowboys, they're killing it because Dak Prescott. Oh, wait a minute. Dak's not playing because Cooper Rush is their quarterback. Are you serious? That's why they're 4-1. No, Ronald. Those teams are 4-1 because they're well coached. That's why. The Cowboys are 4-1 not because of their head coach. He's a putz just like you. Not because of him. They're 4-1 because of their defense. And Dan Quinn and the way he coaches up that group, which allows Cooper Rush to go out there and play the game, make a mistake here or there. It doesn't really matter. The defense is going to clean up any messes. It's okay. That's why. You want to know why the Giants are 4-1? Because Brian Daboll is there. Because Wink Martindale is their defensive coordinator. They're well coached. That's why, not the quarterback. You're the reason we're 1-4. Scott Turner's the reason we're 1-4. Deal with it. Ron is delusional, man. Ronald is delusional. You're this close from losing the people that still believe in you. You're this close. This Chicago game could be the beginning of the end. This thing is already unraveling right before our very eyes. And there are still people, and I was included in this up until yesterday, that would have said, hey, you know what? Ron's struggling, right? He needs a life raft. And if Dan went to him and said, I need you to change something or you got to go. If Ron had to sacrifice someone and Ron decided, all right, I'm going to sacrifice Scott Turner, get me a new offensive coordinator, I'd be back on board. Let me see what this new offensive coordinator has to bring to the table. Jack's getting it done on defense right now. Ron's not terrible. The offensive coordinator to me is the biggest reason right now that we are 1-4, but Ron is not that far behind. So if you change the biggest culprit, I'm back on board. That's where I was up until yesterday. Now I hear this shit today and I'm definitely not on board. This is what happens when you start feeling the pressure and the heat. You start going into crisis mode. And now you start looking for a scapegoat. It wasn't me. Now you go into full Shaggy mode. It wasn't me. Oh, yeah? Okay. I'm watching your ass, Ronald. You better tighten up. And I ain't talking about the Tennessee Titans. They already tightened our ass up yesterday. I'm talking about tightening up in a whole totally different way. You better figure this shit out and you better figure it out fast. Because this game against Chicago could be the beginning of the end for you here in Washington. You can expedite this process. You can speed up this curve of you getting fired. In my mind, you're going to get the full 5 years of this contract, whether you're good or not. But let you keep effing up. Let this season go off the rails and let this team end up 4-13, 5-12. You can get it this year. We'll see. So Ron spoke today. I've pretty much gone over what I wanted to talk about with Ronald. I got nothing else really to add there. Doesn't seem like we had any major injuries in the game. I don't recall anybody, leaving the game with an injury. He did talk about Jahan Dotson potentially playing. I don't see the purpose behind that. It's a short week. Give him another week. This was the problem last year. You guys decided to yo-yo, Curtis Samuel back and forth instead of just putting him on IR, letting him fully heal. You kept yo-yoing him back in the lineup, and ultimately it cost him a full year here in Washington. Just let Jahan Dotson heal and let him come back against Green Bay. There's no reason to rush him. I know you're 1-4 and you want him out there. Again, that's not the smart thing to do. So let's take a quick trip around the NFC East. Obviously, everybody else continues to be successful. Eagles get a win in the desert against the Arizona Cardinals, 20-17, after the field goal kicker for the Arizona Cardinals missed a kick that would have tied that game, sent it to overtime. Eagles are now 5-0 and still remain the lone undefeated team in the league. But after that performance against Arizona, a team that had been struggling, again, I haven't been overly impressed with the Eagles. I've said this a million times. People think I'm hating. Fine, call me whatever you want. I give credit where credit is due. I haven't been overly impressed with the Eagles this season. All right. I've said this over and over again. They're really, how I felt, how we all felt about the Arizona Cardinals when they were 8-0 and the last undefeated team, and everybody was like, man, that shit is a house of cards. And then they barely made it into the playoffs. They limped into the postseason. Now, again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with the Eagles. I'm just telling you, this is the way that I feel. I look at the Philadelphia Eagles the same way I looked at the Arizona Cardinals last year when they were the last remaining undefeated team. I'm not overly impressed. They got the win. They're 5-0. They continue to find a way to get it done. But I was expecting them to not only go to Arizona and win, I was expecting them to destroy Arizona. Arizona has struggled this year. They've been one of the worst first half teams, and they haven't scored a ton of points, and teams have been doing whatever the hell they wanted to do against Arizona's defense, and they struggled yesterday. So they got the win, though. That's all that matters. They're now 5-0, still atop this division, and again, the last remaining undefeated team. Dallas, what a win for them at L.A. on the road against the Rams. I told you something's off with Tampa Bay, Los Angeles, and Green Bay. All of those teams, easily could have lost. 2 out of the 3 did. Tampa Bay got gifted a call that gave them an opportunity to hold on and preserve the victory. Had Atlanta gotten that football back with the momentum that they had scored 15 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Who knows? They might have gone down the field and beaten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the referees never gave them an opportunity to do that. So The Rams were dominated in this game defensively. Michael Parsons continues to be a stud, and I think he is well on his way to being the Defensive Player of the Year this season. He is just a freak of nature, continues to dominate, and so does the rest of that Cowboys defense. I know he's the headliner. He gets a lot of the accolades, but that entire defense is well coached, and they're playing their balls off for Dan Quinn. And again, second week in a row, they only surrendered 10 points. This defense has been playing phenomenal football. It continued, and the Rams' struggles continue as well. Cowboys get it done 22-10 over the Rams. They're now 4-1. And then the biggest surprise of Sunday, I think, was the New York Giants, going to London, to Tottenham, and beating the Green Bay Packers 27-22. Daniel Jones continues to play really well for the Giants. I was impressed. Even in the loss against Dallas, I thought Daniel Jones played his eyeballs out. Saquon Barkley continues. There was a prevailing thought that Daniel Jones wouldn't even be able to play in the game. He went out there, gutted it out on a bum ankle, was bleeding in the game. You know, that they showed that, and he's just a warrior. He continues to go out there and give it everything he's got. Saquon Barkley ended up hurting his shoulder, came back in the game. He was massive in the game for the Giants as well. But it was all about that Giants defense, to be honest with you. They got some critical stops late in the ball game. They were down early in that game, 17-3 were the Giants. I mean, they looked like they were going to get run out of the building. And then defensively, they started to hunker down. The offense gained some confidence, and they got stops when they had to against Green Bay on 2 consecutive possessions late in the ball game, including one when they were nursing that 27-22 lead, or 20. It was 27-20 at that point lead. They deflected a pass on 3rd down and then deflected another one on 4th down to get the stop. They later took a safety to preserve the victory, 27-22 over the Packers. They're now 4-1. Oh my God, the New York Giants are 4-1. And that, to me, is part of the reason why the seat is getting hotter. If Daniel Snyder, you know, he's a clown, he looks over at the Giants and he says, what the hell are we doing over here? And this Daboll guy comes in. The Giants don't have any cap space. They got Daniel Jones at quarterback. And they're 4-1. And our guys over here bumbling around, and we're 1-4. When these owners get impatient, they make irrational decisions, like Matt Rule getting fired. To me, it's an irrational decision. I'm not saying it's not the right move. He probably sucks at this point, and they're not going to turn it around. But firing him at this point of the season isn't going to do much, you know. But if you want to get a head start on finding your next head coach, knock yourself out, which is probably what David Tepper wanted to do. But, you know, I don't think you're going to gain much from firing your coach 5 weeks into the season. So I'm just going to tell you like this. The more the Giants succeed and the more we fail, the hotter Ron's seat gets. The hotter his seat gets. You know, and so we'll see how this goes, man. But when the rest of the division continues to play well and we continue to fall further and further into the abyss, and the gap widens between Washington and the rest of the division, again, it speaks volumes to the level of coaching. Not quarterback, Ronald. Not quarterback, but the level of coaching in this division versus the level of coaching here in Washington. So that's going to do it for me. Your man Louie T here on CNN. I look forward to chopping it up with you tomorrow. Again, this is going to be a condensed week here as we got a game on Thursday night. So everything will be moved up. Tomorrow we will take our first look at the Chicago Bears. Wednesday we'll be live. We will go behind enemy lines. And Thursday I will give you a pseudo, you know, keys to the game, prediction, all that good stuff. It'll be quick. And then we'll have the game. We'll have the post-game show. And then Friday, we'll have the, you know, aftermath, whether good or bad. We'll talk about it. And that'll be the week. And then you'll be able to enjoy football without the pain, heartache, anxiety, and the heart attacks that this team provides you on a weekly basis, or just the disappointment when they just get their ass beat like they did against Detroit or Philadelphia. You'll be able to just watch pain-free, carefree, stress-free. on Sunday, whether they win or lose. So anyway, that'll be really, really rewarding. I'll be looking forward to a Sunday without Washington football, which sucks because normally I'm excited. I miss the fellas. I want to see them. I'm looking forward to them not playing this Sunday. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. Look forward to chopping it up with you tomorrow on the show when we start turning our attention to the Bears. I hope to have the film tomorrow and we go over it live tomorrow so we can, rinse ourselves of this Titans game. There's so much to talk about and then move on to the Bears because, like I said, it's a quick turnaround. So in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one.
Here comes the Diesel. Here comes the Diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone. Touchdown.